Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Charter Township of Grand Blanc Board Meeting for Tuesday, April 19th. If we could all rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So as we call the meeting to order, I'll ask our clerk to do the roll call.
Very good. Trustee Hugo.
Here.
Trustee Fike.
Here.
Trustee Raridan.
Here.
Trustee White.
Here.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Here.
Myself. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes,
Seven members present, a quorum.
thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of our agenda. Okay, motion by Trustee Hugo. supported
Motion by Hugo.
Dr.
Raridan. Trustee Raridan.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open the microphone for the public to make comment. And we just ask that you keep it to 3 minutes or less, and if you could provide your name and address for the record. Yes.
Hello, my name is Michael Yancho Sr., and I reside at 10640 Halsey Road in Grand Blanc. I'm here tonight as my own individual, speaking as an individual. I'm also on the Planning Commission, but I'm speaking as an individual tonight. I know you're going to have some discussion about the zoning text amendments, and I want to state my position that you're going to talk about these temporary accessory buildings and eliminating the use of structures that are made out of canvas or plastic or cloth material over poles. And I think that's, for most people, most places, I think that's very appropriate to keep our community looking the way we'd like it to look. But in a rural estate zoning, where you have to, the lots are a minimum of an acre, many of them are 10 acres, there's only about 4 sections in the township that have RE zoning in them. But, a lot of those people, they're involved in, if not agriculture, which is that's the only place agriculture is permitted, they have extensive gardens and they have hobbies and things like that. And that's why we, for the most part, choose to live on those dirt roads and things like that, because we don't want to be near our neighbors. We want to be separated. I don't want my neighbors to have to look at the things that I have that are outdoor things. The RE zoning, we always talk about open space development, open spaces, preserving the rural nature of our community. And that's where that happens. That's where that takes place. So we have some different standards, I guess you might say. We do some different things, and we have some different restrictions, responsibilities. But I think that we ought to have a little bit of privilege as well in some of the zoning ordinances, and this would be one of them that I think I would like to request that you look at that very strongly and permit those type of structures in the RE district, and possibly put in some language regarding if they're blighted or something like that, that then they're removed or repaired. So, thank you very much.
Mr. Yancho. Anybody else wish to make public comment?
I'd just like to support Mike in his.
Go ahead.
My name is Gary Hayjack, and I live at 2170 East Cook Road. I'm a longtime resident of the township, just like Michael is here, and I'd like to support what he was thinking about, is temporary structures. And I don't know what that all entails with the bill, or the amendments put on there, it's a zoning amendment. But I have a couple of temporary structures, so to speak. They're metal, or they're a playhouse that my children played in back in the day, and I use them for storage now, and and they're wooden or sheet metal, and I didn't know if that was involved in these or not.
I don't believe they are, but
Okay, all right, thank you. I just wanted to support Michael there, too.
thank you, Mr. Ajak. Anybody else like to make comment?
Editor, 7212 Porter Road. You know, I agree, agriculture is a different thing than residential. But anyhow, I made the last planning commission meeting, and I'd like to talk about RVs. I remember a planner making a comment. He was hoping that our representative from this board was at that meeting to convey their feelings that they have on that board, because it was a pretty discussed meeting, okay? But anyhow, hopefully you've gotten that information somehow. They seem like they're in a rush to do this, okay? And that kind of throws me off a little bit. And then there was a statement by our consultant that the intent of the ordinance was for parking in the garage or in the driveway. And this word strip came up. You can park on a strip somewhere. And it maybe needed to be clarified in our ordinance. And maybe not in the front yard, a strip, meaning some crushed concrete put down you can park on, or gravel surface. So anyhow, I'm just going to say to you what I said at the planning commission meeting, express my opinions. I'm against any ordinance change. I think it's too lenient right now, myself, as far as RVs are concerned. Our residential properties, our curb appeal should remain green space, not parking and storage. That's my opinion. And that being said, I've read the ordinance, okay, 4.58, and I think the ordinance and our amendment is unclear. It doesn't spell things out correctly. I'd like you to give these things some kind of thought, okay? This board, because I gave this to the Planning Commission, to consider, to define what are approved RVs, okay? Some may have different opinions of what an RV is, a recreational vehicle. Is it a dune buggy? Is it a Bigfoot? Are they dirt bikes? Are they work trucks? Are they go-karts? You know, what is the definition of a recreational? Maybe I like shooting my tank on the weekends. I don't know. So don't leave this thing up for challenge. Get it clear before we do anything. How many recreational vehicles can you have in the front of your property? Is it 1, 5, 10? How many? Do they have to be parked on concrete? On the lawn? We need to preserve our green space. Does a boat, snowmobile, or have to be on a trailer? Does it have to be on a trailer? Can it be parked just can a snowmobile be parked on your front lawn? That's a recreational vehicle. And then I heard the statement about this gravel being put down in your front yard, maybe next to your driveway or whatever. You can go down on my street, and you can see where someone took a load of gravel and put it in front of their living room window and poured it, and trailed it out, left it out, and put a railroad tie there. It's been there for 3 years. I complained about it. It's part of our ordinance. Somebody put down some gravel. We can park on it, make your whole front yard with gravel. We need to define this ordinance, what we're doing, if we're going to change it. I don't want you to change it. I think you need to make it more restrictive. But, how far away from a house do you park when you get to how many vehicles? So that's about it on that. Just remember, though, HOAs, which are in site condos, are governed by themselves, okay? They have to meet your minimum standards. But they can just say, there's going to be no RVs parked in the front of our property. That's it. It's the residents that have been here a while that count on you to take care of them with their ordinance. And then when you get to Class A and Class C vehicles, frames, define it. What can you put on a Class A, Class C frame for a vehicle? So I think I'm almost to the end, but I do want to say, this board, about a year ago, hired a bunch of code enforcement people to solve these problems. Now, all of a sudden, we're going to lower the standards after we hired more code enforcement people? It's supposed to be a premier community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurt. Anybody else wish to make public comment? Okay, close public comment, bring it back here to the board. And I will seek approval of the consent agenda, which Dr. Reardon is making that motion, supported by Trustee Fike.
Okay, supported by Fike. Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Raridan.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, under old business, we have an update on our strategic plan. Mr. Limita?
So I've asked Nathan to be here this evening to give you guys an update on IT. Obviously, when we started this conversation last year to put the strategic plan together, IT was a real big concern of ours, and we had Nate on board with us as Director of Information Services, or on loan really, as a contract employee from the folks who had done our IT assessment until we were able to corral him, and the board agreed to hire him and bring him on board. He's made tremendous progress in things we've done. I've asked him to come and just provide you that update this evening. One of the things with IT, as you guys are all well aware, is the amount of cyber attacks that government organizations get on a regular basis. And especially when we've got our police department next door, we've got a lot of servers and switches that require us to be up and running. You've seen some of the emails that come out where we've been down periodically while we were doing some of these upgrades. We have invested a decent amount of money into it. I'm sure Nate would rather see us moving faster than we are, but we're doing everything within the constraints financially that we have from a budget, but yet making our organization much more secure. And with that, Nate, if you would come up and just walk the board through kind of where you're at and some of the changes you've made today.
Go ahead and press it. You got it plugged in, Nate?
Yep.
Try it again. Here, that's it. That's not. Here it goes.
Perfect. So I just wanted to update you guys, like Dennis was saying, about where we're at, what possibly is delayed, and just some updates. So under completed projects, we did complete the migration to Office 365. That was done on 2/18/2022. That one was delayed slightly due to some issues and some cleanup that was needed on our old Microsoft email system. So, but that got completed. It's not going to affect the strategic plan from being completed at all. We also completed the network infrastructure upgrade functionally. All the switches and everything have been replaced. There's still some tweaks that need to be done to the configuration of these network switches, but it has improved substantially the speed in the network, and you can see it functionally in a lot of our systems, and they've told me on things like our Bsna system, it's a lot faster. What's still needed is there's some cable cleanup as well that need to happen in the police station second floor network closet. And then I'll talk about this in a sec, but there's fiber upgrades that were supposed to happen between the township building and the police station. We found that there was a break in the conduit underground under the parking lot, and we're unable at that time to run new fiber through that existing pipe. It also is kind of an issue we need to solve regardless if we replace the fiber, because that fiber is what provides internet to the police station. So next week, we're going to be starting the dig process to dig up the conduit and repair that conduit. Actually, 2 weeks from now. Our Know Before Security Awareness training that was part of our cybersecurity package was completed. That wasn't necessarily part of the strategic plan here, but it is important, I think, to note. That was in March, and essentially it's a monthly training that goes out to employees that helps them or educate them on the cybersecurity issues that are happening and how to identify them when they come in through email and online. It also sends out a simulated phishing attempt to each employee. Everyone gets a different one, just to kind of show them if they do end up falling for it, what they could have seen and the little nuances that they could have seen to help prevent a breach and things like that in the future. There are a couple delays, but nothing that's going to be, holding back this IT upgrades from finishing on time. The network segmentation project that I have going was delayed because we needed to replace the network switches. That was the network infrastructure upgrade that we just completed. So that the segmentation project is ongoing, and I plan to complete that by the end of Q2 this year. The IT internal service fund, we're pushing that back to 2023. We just felt like there was more thought that needed to go into some of the calculations that were in that we needed to think about that more before implementing that. The campus fiber replacement project got delayed. That was what I talked about, where the fiber replacement underground between the buildings, and that got delayed because we could not start the project until the asphalt companies were open for one. We didn't want to put gravel in there during the winter time when we found out the issue. The big trucks would have pushed that gravel everywhere. And two, we did need to wait until the actual switches were all in place before we started doing that anyway. Couple updates. We have a Bsna server replacement happening. We're migrating to the new Bsna server this Thursday, actually. That's starting this Thursday. So our online services will actually be down during that time. An update went out on the phones, social media, and the website, letting residents know that the online services will be down, but we will still be accepting cash and check payments in person if they have their invoice. That is starting on Thursday at 4 p.m., or actually 2 p.m., and it will go through the night, and we hope to have it completed by noonish the next day on Friday. Domain controller server replacement, that's been built. It's being configured right now. That one's on track to be completed by the time frame. And the cybersecurity changes that we're doing, I'd say, are around roughly about 60% completed. There's a lot that goes into rolling that out. There's a lot of new things that we didn't have before. So that's ongoing and on track. And that's it. Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Fike.
I was watching 60 Minutes this past weekend, and they had a whole thing on cybersecurity and how the Russians are doing all this stuff and are going to do stuff. I don't know that they would necessarily target Grand Blanc Township, but I wondered about our infrastructure. Is it tied to computers, and could it be possible that someone could have some nefarious ideas and mess with it as far as that
Yes,
goes.
and it's a real threat, and especially for, I mean, maybe not specifically our township, but local townships and local municipalities are being targeted by them, and I have seen an uptick in traffic. We have a system that blocks certain things like that, and I've seen a lot more Russian traffic happening, so it's a real threat for sure.
And we're good?
Well, we are good, but if somebody wants to get in anywhere, I mean, there's no 100% guarantee.
We're better than we were.
Yes, for sure.
We're probably about 500.
And a lot of how they're going to get in is through phishing attempts and emails like that, and that's why we're doing that training. Because a lot of how they're getting into places is an employee clicks on the link and opens the file, and so we're trying to prevent that.
Those phishing emails are good. I mean, they look legit, could say something from Human Resources, whatever. It looks like it's from Grand Lake Township, or the one that I had looked like it was from the U.S. Postal Service. And so you see it absolutely, it's like, hey, click here, this thing, and, or your Human Resources about your vacation change. I mean, there's all kinds of them. And what I do is I just forward them to Nate and say, is this phishing? Because if it isn't, he'll send it back to
It
me.
opens your eyes, though. They are really good, and people don't realize that they're seeing a lot of the spam, and it's misspelled in their email, and they have millions of dollars they're willing to give you, but that's not how a state actor is going to get in. They're going to be targeting you specifically, and they're going to have a really nice looking email, and you're not going to know unless you look at some key factors. So, just based on the content, you shouldn't be relying on misspellings and things like that.
So yeah, the traffic, from what I understand, you said it did increase as far as
Not crazily, but yeah, I've seen an increase.
attacks. Our software will show that, right? So I know our security has to have improved drastically with the steps we've been taking. Nothing's foolproof, but
Right.
there are a couple of municipalities, including Genesee County, was held for ransom. I believe either the city or the township, Flushing was, had to pay a ransom, this within the last couple of years, so.
Yeah.
We want to make sure we stay as far away from having to have those kind of situations as possible. So, anything else that?
Thank you.
Okay, this is kind of like our DPW sewer and water. Nobody sees it, and it's not an issue until you have a problem. Then
Right.
it's like, why didn't we maintain that? So, great work, and we're looking forward to no problems, and you
too.
continue to do a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nate.
Anything else, Mr. Leavitt, on the strategic plan, or?
Nope, that's all we had for this evening.
Okay. Clerk Robertson wants to make sure that we don't add anything else here.
It's a little bit of an inside joke, thank you. I merely am striving for efficiency in all that we do, Mr. Supervisor.
I agree. Okay. Under new business, the board will consider a motion to award the Baldwin Road Water Tower painting contract to L&T Painting, Inc., as recommended by our consulting engineers for $331,900, and authorize the township superintendent to execute all related contracts and documents. Good evening, Mr. Boggs.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor. We brought a consulting agreement to you guys back in January for Nelson Tank about our Baldwin Road water tower that needs to be taken out of service and stripped down and painted. Like I said, inspection found some defects in the paint, some delamination, and so the tower originally went in service in 2007, so it's definitely due. So Nelson went out to bid on the work. Out of 5 we solicited, 4 came back, and L&T Painting is the low bidder. Nelson did give us their recommendation that they are qualified to have done this type of work in similar municipalities before, and they do recommend us hiring them for the $331,000. Yes, sorry.
So,
Yes,
Mr.
so-
Boggs, did we figure out a way to put the logo on there? I know we were having
Yes.
some issues with the
Yes,
color.
so we'll have the new logo on this tower, on both sides of it. So you'll see it from I-75 there at Baldwin and the DDA district, so.
It'll be lit up at night, too?
I don't know about that. But anything is possible with the right funds, so.
Okay.
So any questions?
This is actually a lot less than I thought it would be. I mean, we paid a lot more for towers to be painted, haven't we? I mean,
Yeah, but there's actually, the wet side has to be sandblasted and painted. There is some delamination in there. So actually, that's what Nelson kind of gave us a ballpark of what this work would, and it falls right in what we budget for this year.
any questions for Mr. Boggs? Okay. A motion would be in order if somebody cares to make it.
I make it.
Okay. Motion by Treasurer Kilmer, support by Trustee White.
Support by Trustee White. All right, support. Do we, I can go through the roll call, but Trustee Hugo is absent for the moment. Do we want to stand at ease until she returns? Is she just step away for a moment? I didn't notice, but.
You can move forward if you want. It's up to you.
Let's just go ahead and vote on it. And
Okay. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan. Yes. Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, next item is item B. The board will consider a motion to approve zoning change case number 673 for Bricata LLC for the parcel 12-16-100-033 from RD Research and Development to L1, which is light industrial.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So at the April 7, 2022 Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission voted 8-0 to recommend approval for zoning case 673. The applicant requested the parcel mentioned above, 16-100-033, currently zoned research and development, changed to I-1 light industrial for the purpose of leasing to hire tenants not previously allowed in the RD zoning. And the Planning Commission did recommend a motion for approval. The surrounding zoning for that. To the north would be research and development. To the east would be the Grand Blanc City, single-family residential. To the south was R3, single-family residential, and to the west was light industrial as well. This falls in line with the future land use map that was approved last fall.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with this parcel, and I think the zoning fits with what the intent was.
And this is the second or third parcel that you've seen that since we've approved that future land use map that falls in line with that.
Any concerns, thoughts? Yes, Mr. Fike?
I just wanted to ask you, that's near residential,
Correct.
and all these residents have been told about this? They're city residents.
City residents, so as the notification process works, we don't have to notify outside of our jurisdiction. We just have to notify the office of Grand Blanc City, which was done. We don't, if it was in our township, we have to notify everybody within 300 feet. If an outside municipality falls within that 300 feet, we just have to notify their office, not every individual parcel.
As you're driving north on Dort Highway from Grand Blanc Road, is it on the east or west?
It's on the east side. Tri Park.
Tri Park, where those other developments are right now.
Roll steel.
Yep, down Tri Park, yep.
And how far from the residents would these buildings be?
There's already existing buildings on this property. And they're,
There's already existing.
yep, so they're looking to add a couple more buildings on the south side of the existing buildings. And they would, when they bring a new site plan, they would have to conform to the light industrial standards, not the RD standards. So they would have to put in screening because of residential to the south and to the east.
What do they do over there? I mean, give me a thumbnail definition of light industrial.
Light industrial would be warehousing, storaging, packaging.
They don't make widgets.
They could. I don't know the specific uses in the existing buildings, I do not.
I'm learning. Thank you.
We're going to have, you know, if the tech village gets developed, there will be light industrial in with residential mixed in. So it's not unheard of to have light industrial in with condos, apartments, all that kind of thing.
Yes.
You know, we have light industrial mixed with residential now. You go down Embry Road and
Holly Road.
Holly Road. So, we have some of those existing. So,
Well, we like the growth in the township, right?
yeah. But we want it to be, you know, the quality of life is important, you know, that's top priority, so.
Yeah, and site plan review will take care of any screening issues.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Smith? Okay, so a motion is in order if, or support on that. Mr. White, supported by Mr. Fike.
By White, supported by Fike. Trustee Hugo.
Sorry, just 1 second.
That's okay, I'll wait. Item 7B on the agenda.
Yes.
Very good. Trustee Fike?
Yes.
Trustee Raritan?
Yes.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Item C, the board will consider a motion to approve zoning change case number 674 for zoning text amendments.
So also at the April 7th meeting, there was 7 different items up for text amendment change that I had brought to Jill at Giffords Webster's attention that I would like to have modified. One of which was mechanical equipment, section 3.6R. Basically, what that one is entailing is that we don't want to see any AC units, generators. They all need to be put in the side yard or backyard and not the front yard. The automobile sales in 4.17, Planning Commission agreed that the new car sales standards are okay, but the used car, as it reads today, the use and the zoning districts, they have to be 500 feet apart in order to have a used car lot on the commercial side. We're asking to change that to 500 feet from the use of the building or parking lot from the residential. We've got quite a few where they're bowling lane lots, if you will, long skinny lots that have, all the uses are up front. There's a couple on Saginaw Road, and they are looking to their use, they own probably another 700 feet from the residential that's behind them or to the west. So we're asking to have that changed so that way they can run the business that they would like to do, but still having a massive buffer between the two zoning districts.
I mean, I've got a
Yep.
question for the mechanical equipment in the front yard. Does that include solar panels or, no? Or is that already covered under something else?
Solar panels are covered under a different section. The next one was for temporary sheds in section 5.2. As Mr. Yansho alluded to, we had discussion at the Planning Commission meeting. In my opinion, well, not my opinion, as it states today, they are not allowed, period, the end, in any zoning district per the zoning ordinance. We're looking to have something in black and white put into the book that actually specifically states that they're not allowed. So that way there's no discrepancy whatsoever.
So if they're not allowed, I mean, if you say they're not allowed today, and then, but there's nothing to say that there is. Is that what you're saying?
There's nothing in black and white that says that they are not allowed.
So would this cover, you know, people that have, you know, maybe collector cars, they sometimes put a cover on it, like a little portable garage?
Portable garages, yes, would be in this. A cover over a collector car in your driveway is not the same. So we're looking for the pole structures covered with canvas or light plastic because they get dilapidated and then they blow throughout the subdivision or to the neighboring properties. They don't carry the wind and weight load necessary for our building codes.
just for clarification, the little portable garages that people, that, I don't know what material they use. Isn't it some type of canvas or?
Some are made out of plastic, some are made out of
Well, and so those would not be allowed, is that what you're saying?
the temporary canvas plastic structures would not be allowed if they cannot support the wind and weight load of our building code.
In visqueen,
Visqueen, no, right,
I mean, they could be made out of just about anything.
right. So,
I mean, I've seen some people use them for greenhouses as well, and the wind whips through them, and
it'd be,
you just put them in your front yard or whatever,
correct, you can't have them in the front yard, can't have them anywhere on the yard as it stands today. I just want something in black and white where it says you can't have them, period, and that way there's no discussion and no arguing about it.
Right?
But they're allowed for greenhouses, correct?
Commercial greenhouse is a different story. Commercial greenhouse.
Yeah, I didn't see commercial there.
It's not listed in this one. But commercial greenhouses are clarified in a separate section.
Those people who have them, let's say that we have some people in a subdivision.
Today,
Yeah, let's just say.
if code enforcement drove by them tomorrow, they would be required to remove them because we don't allow them, period, the end, as of today, either. I'm just asking for language to be put into the book so there's no discrepancy.
Did you hear Mr. Yancho's comments? I mean, what did you think about it?
So farming is allowed in actually all of our residential zoning districts, not just RE. The only one that's not allowed in is R4. So farming, you also have to have 10 acres. So if you wanted to have in R2 and you had 10 acres, you could still have farming. But farming has to have 10 acres on it.
But I mean about those structures.
The structure does not support the wind and weight snow load per the state building codes. That's why they get dilapidated. That's why they're blowing all over the place. If it was a permanent structure, you wouldn't have that issue. So if you wanted to cover up your tractor or your other items with a permanent structure, that's not a problem as long as it meets the rest of our zoning standards for number and square footage and things of that sort.
So in an agricultural area, are these not allowed for covering up hay bales or tractors or whatever?
No, currently no.
Correct. And it's interesting when we talk about the difference between pure agricultural uses and the building code and the zoning code. And if you have have an active agricultural use and then you can exempt yourself from the Michigan Building Code, but also our zoning code in certain circumstances. I think that this is going to be an interesting issue because you come up with a number of different hypothetical manifestations, I think, of what the Planning Commission was describing here. And you would still, on purely agricultural property, you're not going to be applying the building code anyway, right, for a pure agricultural use. And so I think it's going to fall then into whether or not it's a blighted, a situation that can lead to blight. And I think that's what Mr. Smith is really trying to get at, is try to avoid things, structures and materials that are easily blighted. And we're going to have a little bit of tougher time on purely agricultural properties enforcing this provision. I think we still can, but there's going to be a little bit of a safety valve for purely agricultural uses. And you Mr. Smith made reference to our ordinance regarding certain acreages requirements for ag uses. I think that what we would probably find ourselves doing is consulting the Department of Agriculture's requirements, what they call them the GAMPs, or the Generally Accepted Agricultural Practices, and finding out if we've got a conflict there. So I guess the upshot of what I'm saying is that there's more opportunity for an agricultural property to not necessarily run afoul of this ordinance unless they've got an obviously a situation where there's blight or some unsafe condition.
So if you're in a RE area, basically agricultural, right?
And you have established an agricultural use that would fall into what the Department of Ag would consider agricultural uses. in certain situations, you're not even going to have to comply with our building code for a hard, four walls and a roof. And I think, again, that would, on a case-by-case basis, we'll have to see if this ordinance would pick up any of those potential structures. Still, though, even if you're in purely ag and you've got some condition or some material that's more blight than structure, you're probably going to have a problem with this.
Another thing to consider too, anything that's in the zoning ordinance, you can go for a variance for. So if you can prove a hardship or practical difficulty, you can always plead your case to the zoning board of appeals. But have to have a practical difficulty or hardship to have what you're requesting.
Mr. Reardon?
Can I back up one to the automobile? So we're, for the used car, the 500-foot setback from the building, so that's from the building or corner of the building to the who does that affect over here? The old Victor George lot comes to mind. I think that's Jay and.
There's one in particular that we're using as an example. I can't remember off the top of my head. He doesn't have any used cars there at the moment, but it would be the closest corner of the building to the residential. You would start that 500 feet, and then you would to the residential use.
So the old Victor George, is that the right?
Yes, I think that's the.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about, was it Family Video, the old Family Video store, that they wanted to have a used car?
In this case, in this instance, that still doesn't help them.
Okay. But, so when we looked at that case, it's not spot on. The residential, the occupied structures were quite a bit farther away than the actual property line in the district.
Correct.
Right, and this is an attempt to solve that.
Correct.
So the last one was Randy Wise had that used cars here, and then that went out. We actually had somebody come in, a realtor that had an opportunity to sell that property, and they wanted to use it as a used car lot. They couldn't just go back and use it as a used car lot because over a year had gone by, so the same use no longer applied. And that would definitely impact it. Right now, it's a vacant, weed-filled lot.
Yeah, I understand a lot. How close to the houses does this, I mean, how close to the lot line does this get?
The one that we're using as it has over 700 feet from the residential use line to the building.
Okay, so there's 200 feet.
There's still 200 feet. Well, there's 700 feet buffer. He could add to the business another 200 feet if he wanted to, if the business got bigger, and still be within that 500-foot buffer from the back of his building to the residential zoning district line.
It used to be read lot line to lot line, so if the zoning per the lots butted up, even if there was 2,000 feet, it didn't matter because it was lot lines. What we're trying to do with the language is accomplish what we were really trying to accomplish with that setback, is to keep it far enough away from residential areas to lessen the impact of a commercial enterprise.
Okay, I think I was under the understanding that he could park his used cars all the way back, but that's not the case.
No.
Okay.
Put a gear blind back there.
Okay.
Mr. White?
One follow-up. So is the 500 feet from used car lot to used car lot, is that actually used car lot building now to used car lot building?
Commercial to commercial does not have the 500 feet. It's
500 feet will still be lot line to lot line for commercial.
correct. Well, whatever the setback is for general commercial, yes. But from commercial to residential is the 500 feet.
So yeah, like on Saginaw Street, we have a number of lots that go back quite a ways.
Correct.
But only the front portion that's on the Saginaw Street corridor is really being used.
Right. And as of today, that wouldn't be allowed for used cars if a new one to come in because they all butt up to residential to the west.
Right. So,
So the next section was fences, section 5.3.5. This one, in industrial, both industrial districts, you're allowed to have 8-foot fences. We're just asking to add research and development to that. The next section, 6.36A, special land use amendments. It said building department director in there. Under the previous regime, the building department director was over planning and zoning, so I'm just asking to have it changed to planning and zoning director and not building director. Temporary signs, 5.19.4C and F. There was a discrepancy in the number of days that were allowed for temporary signage. We're trying to make sure that they are the same for temporary banners and for freestanding temporary signs, both reduced, or both changed to 56 days per year, 14 days at a time. So that's 14 times 4. So 4 times a year at 14 days apiece, they can have temporary signs with a permit. Before it was 20 and then 64. So we're just trying to make our lives easier at keeping it the same timeline. And then section 4.58 for, in residential districts for accessory vehicles. Accessory vehicles including RVs, campers, boats, trailers, any kind of trailers, open trailers, closed trailers, work trailers, everything. From April 1st to November 1st, you are allowed to park it in your driveway only, no front yard. After November 1st, you can have it in your driveway for 48 hours, and then it has to go into the side yard or the rear yard.
Jeremy, a couple of questions, Mr. Smith. So the gravel, one of the residents brought up with regard to concern with people putting gravel down. It was my impression that, I recall, at least I thought this was the case, that if, let's say somebody's parking an accessory vehicle or they need more driveway space for just cars, they're allowed to put down a gravel area for 1 year, and after that it has to be paved, I thought.
Correct.
So if somebody's put gravel down their front yard, it's a code enforcement.
Correct. But if they were to pave that,
What's that?
if they were to pave that, they could have more parking in their, it's just like, we can't regulate somebody putting in a turnaround in their side yard. If they end up, they don't have any room in their side yard, but they want to do it in their front yard, and it's paved, we can't, as long as it's not in the right of way, then we have no regulations against that. But if they start to go into the right of way, then they have to have their driveway permit modified by a road commission.
Is there any ordinance with regard to the percentage of your property that you can pave?
You have open space per, every zoning district has a open space requirement, yes.
I couldn't like pave over my whole backyard?
No. No. In regards to number of vehicles, you have to be, it's a slippery slope, you have to be careful with the use and the freedom of using your own property. So regulating the number, even in your driveway, even in the backyard, you really can't regulate that. If you had one boat and one RV, or if you had 3 boats in your backyard, there's nothing we can really do to stop that. Now, they do have to be 3 foot off the property line, just like any other structure that we require in the township.
How do we prevent, and I haven't seen it get to this extent yet, but I've seen it starting, kind of like a boat graveyard or...
So then that would be blighted, and if it was brought to our code enforcement's attention, then we could address it at that point. So even with, even if this passes, having RVs and boats and trailers in the driveway, if they get dilapidated, that's still under the jurisdiction of code enforcement to enforce.
Do they have to, I imagine there's some concern for our fire department. Actually, was at a fire that we had in the past 2 years that had a trailer parked close to the garage, I think it was. When the garage caught on fire, I think the trailer may have caught on fire, and then propane tanks. Is there a certain distance that they're going to be required to park those from?
From their own structure? No. As it stands today, you can park a boat or RV in your side yard. You're supposed to when it's not in use anyway.
But I thought there was something with the distance that you had to have between the house and the, no?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, I thought somebody had told me that. But, and as far as approved RVs, they're trailers, I'm saying. We're not necessarily saying like I can park my snowmobile in my driveway. It has to be on a trailer.
It has to be on a trailer, yes.
Or one of these quad runners or any of these big.
Trailer. I mean, if you're using it, but if it's being stored and somebody throws a tarp over it, that means that's, they're not using it. You're storing it. So that's, would have to be subject to the side yard or backyard as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Dr. Reardon.
The RV parking from April to November, is what we said. And specifically, again, that's boats, campers.
Trailers, work trailers, open trailers, closed trailers, yep, snowmobile trailers.
And then in November, if it's parked in your driveway, it has to be moved, or does it have, you can move it within your driveway?
You have to have 48 hours, and then it has to be in the side yard or the backyard. So this is a kind of compromise that we had discussed, because in the original proposal that I had was nothing after November 1st. Everything had to be in the side yard, but they wanted to have something for the snowmobilers or the hunting trailers that come back after November 1st and they're done with their use. They've got 48 hours to leave it in their driveway, and then after that, they have to unload it and then put it in the side yard or the rear yard.
Right now, what we run into, and we've been dealing with it for the last however many years, I don't know, but Mr. Laddie probably can tell us longer than anybody, but it's kind of a game, a game that gets played. I mean, our police in the past, when they enforced the codes for us, would go out and the person would, okay, I'll move my trailer, pull it out and pull it onto the other side of the driveway. Now the same thing with our code enforcement. Somebody comes out there, they pull it out and back it back in. Hey, I moved it.
Right.
And we heard all kinds of people upset, and we were going to do something about it. But we have a concern with blight, and HOAs can regulate this even further if they choose to. Which I think probably most of them do.
Right. And another thing too, part of the strategic plan is cleaning up the blight. And this alleviates our code enforcement officers from dealing with this game, if you will, and focusing on the blighted properties, the grass, the dilapidated cars and everything else, things that they should be focusing on to beautify the township and not playing a game with these residents. They come in and out so frequently that it is a game. 48 hours is ridiculous. They move in and out, and they have to go to the same property 2 or 3 times in a week. So,
Mr. Laddie, if we wanted to try this for a year or two, we could always change it back and say, hey, you know what, this is not working, people are abusing it, or it's just leading to more blight, and we just get rid of it altogether and say, you know what, no trailers and driveways or whatever.
Absolutely.
So Joe from Giffords had mentioned to pull this out of the zoning ordinance and then make it a general ordinance, so that way the planning commission is not involved and it's just up to the township board. So if you give me 2 years with this, and let's see how it goes, and let's make sure we work the kinks out. If it doesn't work, and then here in a couple of months, if it gets passed tonight, we can move it to a general ordinance, and then if you want to change it after a year or two, we can change it, make a resolution, and change it on the spot here.
Mr. Fike?
Jeremy, the last provision was the interesting one to me about the driveways.
Okay.
How, refresh my memory, how is that different, this new provision, from the current way it goes?
As it stands today, you have 48 hours to unload your camper and put it in the side yard.
That's the new part.
No, that's currently how it stands.
Current part, okay.
Yes. Now you are allowed from April 1st to November 1st to leave your trailer boat in your driveway from April 1st to November 1st with no 48-hour time period. After November 1st, it goes back to how it stands today. You have 48 hours to unload it, side yard, and backyard for storage.
We've got one more question on the accessory building. So it was mentioned, hey, I've got a children's playhouse in my backyard, or hey, I've got a metal shed. I mean, those things are all regulated already, right?
Metal shed would be permitted because it carries the wind and weight load of snow. A children's playhouse is not regulated.
So, I mean, right now, if you have a shed, you're supposed to get a permit for putting it up.
Correct.
It has to meet certain...
Distances from the lot line, yep.
Okay. Dr. Reardon?
This is, I think, more for Mr. Laddie here. The 48 hours in November or December, and they're parking the vehicle there. Are we issuing a citation at that point? I mean, are you going to court with that? Or do they get the 11-day?
They still get the notice.
Be 2 notices, first and final, and then they get a court date if they don't move it out of their driveway after that 48-hour period.
If during this time period we've got, excuse me, a blighted, if there is such thing as a blighted RV or something in somebody's driveway, we can talk to them about that as well.
They would be subject to citations as well.
You know, one of the good things about one of the good things about our new code enforcement is they tend to get compliance, I think 90% range with writing tickets. And I think that's a last resort if a person just isn't going to comply, but I think they get pretty good compliance just talking with them. And I mean, it doesn't say they don't send out letters and look pretty threatening, but at times if they have to, they get compliance and people understand where we're at with it. So, like I said, we'll be able to spend some time on some other things. Maybe. Yes, Mr. Fite?
Since this is such a new thing, how are we going to communicate this with
Oh, they'll
residents?
know.
Here's the
People
way
have
the
RVs.
rules are.
So my thought is we're going to have to do a cross PR move. We're going to have to put it on social media. We're going to have to put it on our website. We can put a flyer in our water bills. We can put it in our tax bills and get to as many people as we can. We can't notify everybody in the township all at one time, but throughout the summer, word's going to spread that they'll be allowed to keep them.
What will happen is we won't be giving violations to the people who are doing it. Is
Right.
Contrary to the comment that we're rushed into the RV ordinance, I've been here since August of 2015, and this has been a nonstop conversation since August of 2015. It's been looked at by 3 different township boards, 3 different iterations of planning commissions, joint township board and planning commissions. It's been discussed ad nauseum. I think this is a good compromise, especially since we can try it out and change it anytime we want. The other thing is we get, I'm not aware of complaints in the winter in violation of RV ordinance, quite frankly. Those are always during camping season. Those were when we got the complaints in on those. And I don't recall one ever coming in during the winter months, quite frankly. Will we have some? Sure we will. Once we go back, people get used to, I can leave my trailer in the driveway. But again, our code enforcement guys have been fantastic getting voluntary compliance, which is always our goal, never to get to a civil infraction, and very few of these actually end up having to go to court.
Yep, that is true. And by the way, I mean, they're doing a really good job. There's, I see these guys a lot. I talk to them a lot. They're very active. They report that they get compliance. Sometimes it takes some persistent persuasion. When they do bring me a case, which I would say this week they brought me 2 cases. They say, look, we tried everything we could with this person, and we can't get compliance. And it's also been the case where when we do meet up with them face-to-face in court, they're very, code enforcement officials are very good at providing background. They provide good information to the judge. And again, these things are, because of their background and their thorough process, they're getting good results for the judge too. So I would say that the midterm results of this new endeavor is very positive.
Okay. And so if there was a dilapidated trailer in the front,
In the driveway?
in the driveway,
Mhm.
that would be addressed,
By code enforcement.
no, let's say it was June 1st.
Doesn't matter. Code enforcement.
And these guys are being more proactive than responsive, correct? I mean, so they're going out, okay.
Also, too, is if they, for health and safety reasons, too, if let's say you have a big 50-foot Class A motorhome and it hangs over a sidewalk or hangs into the road, we're not going to allow that.
I would be curious just to look, though, at if there's any other municipalities have ordinances in terms of parking those things next to houses. I've got to believe that if you're fighting a fire and there's a trailer parked 3 inches from the house, it's got to make it tougher to, and if the houses are close together, and let's say my neighbor has a trailer parked next to their house, and now guess what? It's not only inhibiting, emergency people from getting back there, it could impede them from getting between both of our houses.
I mean, we had a similar type ordinance, not exactly the same in Davison Township, and we never had any issues with fire department.
I've seen that, now that is, like, we have lakefront communities like Argentine. They require a 10-foot separation between properties of all obstructions, really to get to the lake if they have some emergency down there. I'm not aware of any kind of buffer zone in Grand Blanc, but I'll take a look at it, and I'd like to hear if the fire chief, I'll connect with him later, but it'd be interesting to see if there are many situations where you have personal property that blocks access to firefighting. I gotta guess it's rare.
Yeah, but it's something we can look at down.
And that's something, a provision that we could add down the road if we decide to.
Okay. Anybody else have any concern with any of it? It sounds like a lot of them have been addressed. We have been beating this for a while.
Is a motion in order, Mr. Supervisor, on item 7C?
Yes, I believe Treasurer Kilmer has something he wants.
And I don't know, this may not be an appropriate place to bring it up, but I still have a problem with these little boxes all over the place with clothes hanging out of them, and there's blight there, there's.
So Code Enforcement Officer Wilkinson and myself have made it a priority to attack those last fall, and she's still working with a few, but she's had, I'd say, 90% compliance with the businesses that had these donation boxes that were eyesores, if you will.
First of all, they're not donations. They're a for-profit company. And a lot of people don't understand it because it looks like a donation.
Mhm.
It's not. And that's my objection, is that they're,
Masquerading as charities and actually for profit.
right.
So the way we're attacking them is that they weren't approved as part of the original site plan, so they're not allowed.
Well, every time I go down North Highway here, it's just
Saginaw Street.
Saginaw Street. There's 3 of them sitting right there in the car wash, and every time I go, they're still there.
That's one of the ones that we're having a problem with. Jimmy's Liquor had some, he was reluctant to remove them, but they have been removed. So it's a slow process, and sometimes they get placed there and the business owner had no idea that it was even there. Or it was there before they took over occupancy of the business and they just let it
What's the
stay.
reluctance to removing them for the business owner?
They think it's a donation box, but most don't realize that, like Treasurer Kilmer said, that they are for profit. And then sometimes the business owner gets a kickback for having them on their property. We've found that out too.
Okay.
So we are addressing it. Yep.
All right. So did you make a motion?
I would be happy to if you'd like.
Okay.
I'll make the motion on item 7C, supported by Fike.
Yes.
Okay, Trustee Raritan.
Boy, that temporary shed thing's just bothering me here.
Trustee Raritan.
I know, I'm thinking. One more question here. Would that include, I mean, if people had tents in their backyard, they're having, it's a temporary structure. Huh?
You say a tent in their
A
backyard?
tent in their backyard, maybe they were, I mean, for how long?
I mean, a tent is for you to sleep in for a couple days. That's not something you're going to have there every day. This is for extended storage periods that people use to store tractors, things of that nature, that they're just trying, they don't have the room in their garage or pole barns that they should be building permanent structures.
I am aware of a tent that was a complaint when I was campaigning a while back, and it was somebody who had a tent over their driveway for the entire summer because they had an ongoing garage sale for probably 5 months.
Mhm.
And the neighbors complained that, look.
And that is taken care of in a garage, we have a garage sale ordinance that we would go after them for that.
And when you say non-rigid material sheds made of non-rigid material should be prohibited, do you mean shall be? I mean, one's permissive, one is, at least in the note that I'm reading right here on the agenda memo, it says should versus shall.
It shall in the text amendment that I'm reading, it says,
Okay, well,
shall be, no such building or structure shall be constructed or made of fabric.
okay, the agenda memo that I was looking at said should, but okay. So yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah, thank, I was going to say one more time. Yes, okay, very good. Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item is item D. The board will consider a motion to approve the 2022 road chloriding program as recommended and authorize township supervisor to execute all related documents. Mr. Boggs?
Yes, this is our annual kind of cooperation with the Genesee County Road Commission to chloride all public dirt roads in Grand Blanc Township. So the first step would be 3 applications. The first application, we split with the road commission, 50-50, all gravels, and that usually happens in May. The second application, the township pays for it wholly, but it only covers Halsey, Gray Tracks, McWayne, Reed, west of West Middle School. And that usually happens in June, and then GCRC pays for the third application, and it's all gravel roads again in the township.
Something we do each year, pretty much. We've approved it in the past year.
Dust control.
Yeah. Mr. White?
Can you do this at Bicentennial?
Yes, we
We
do, yes.
We do bicentennial a couple times a year, and I know it turns into a dust cloud. It's a monster, and so it isn't as part of this. Because we have to do it on ourselves because it's private, and we use road commission to do it, or we use private company to do it. So we do chloriding, but it's not as part of this program.
I'd like us to look at that permazyme, though, that material that is
So that's not going to happen this year because it really didn't, it really was applied wrong, we think. It just didn't work out. So in the future, yes, maybe in 2023, we'll look at it.
It has to be a certain makeup of soil for it to work.
Right. Go ahead, sorry.
Did you mention Vassar in that?
No, because that's a split municipality road, so I think, they'll cover that. So
Vassar actually, how it works where the boundaries are, Vassar is considered Atlas Townships. Fenton Road is considered Grand Lake Township, Vassar Road, then it goes to that. So it's funny, we don't split the road down the middle 50-50. It's how the road commission assigns roads to whose jurisdiction, and Vassar Road, even though, it's here, is typically Atlas Township.
Same with the north road, like Maple Road.
Maple Road, Burton owns it, both sides of the right of way, even on our side. So Bicentennial Park, the chloride. So when we built the road on the north side of the park, we used crushed concrete to build that road. I think Zito did it. And chloride doesn't really work on crushed concrete. It's a cheaper material, but chloride doesn't keep the dust down. So.
We're gonna figure out how to pave it one of these days.
We are.
And put lights out there, it'd be nice. But, okay, we'll vote on the chloriding here.
Okay, I need a motion and a second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Hugo.
Motion by Hugo, supported by
Reardon.
Raridan, very good. Okay, Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Raridan.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Thank you.
Mr. Boggs, this does have to be to the road commission by the 22nd, so time is short. If you could make sure that gets there tomorrow, or
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'll see you at the meeting.
it requires both the supervisor and clerk's signature on it.
Yep.
Okay, very good.
Item E, the board will consider Resolution 22-4, to support the Grand Blanc Band Boosters' request to hold a 5K race on May 22nd, 2022, and agrees to hold Genesee County Road Commission harmless from any negligence committed by township employees or agents. Mr. Laddie?
This one might ring a bell, because I think back in January, you approved a resolution to allow this activity to take place. And we've got some feedback from the road commission saying, we appreciate your resolution, but we send you another resolution to consider wherein the township will indemnify the road commission for all claims that occur in this event. And when we reviewed that proposed resolution, we thought, well, we don't mind indemnifying for our police officers or our agents and any negligence that they may be involved in, but we don't feel like we can indemnify the road commission for any activity or any claim that would occur at this event, meaning if somebody tripped in a pothole, we don't feel like we could stand in the shoes of the road commission. And Supervisor Bennett did an excellent job of making contact with, and I also think Clerk Robertson had some discussion with the road commission, explained our objection to it, and I think today you might have had some success having them go back to their lawyers and possibly soften that language up. And we know that, and I think they're going to take that issue up again in a month, but you can see by the date of the Grand Lake Boosters, that's supposed to happen May 22nd. And so what we thought we would do is take the progress that Supervisor Bennett made today and propose to the road commission a resolution that still has us indemnifying them for any of our employees or agents for any negligence, but requires the applicant to indemnify the road commission for any claims that may arise from their people, and also adopted the insurance requirements where the township's named insured and the county road commission is named insured in the amounts that the county had proposed earlier, and it was $1 million per person per injury, $2 million per incident or combined, and then $500,000 for property damage. So we're being proactive to try to allow these events to occur at the request of our residents. And we hope that the road commission will accept this. And if they do, you may see this forum for future events because it's meant to be sort of a template. So if you're so inclined and want to send this on to the road commission, hopefully it will allow the boosters to have their event May 22nd. And then I don't think you maybe saw the request for the Pink Party, which is a 5K run walk event held, I think, to be in the confines of Warwick Hills subdivision on June 18th.
Right.
Very good.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or concerns?
So on the one with the band boosters, we would vote and then the road commission would vote and then they can do it?
What will happen is we'll submit, if we vote on it and pass this resolution, we'll send the application to the road commission, but there will be a number of things that the band boosters have to comply with that we need to include with that packet, such as proof of insurance that they're going to insure the road commission. We're going to request they name us as an insured as well. There's some other things they want to know, which streets and roads, what times, all that kind of stuff, but it's in the application. So we'll forward it to the road commission. They'll look it over, and I don't know if they vote on it. I think it's an internal approval process that they go through.
Let's hope they can do it, and that, there's time to do all this.
Yes. Well, our hang-up was, like Attorney Laddie says, we didn't want to necessarily be on the hook for doing.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
The charity, I mean, that's between the charity and the road commission.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Supervisor. The language that the road commission was requesting was simply unacceptable. And obviously we tasked David with approaching the road commission, and you did, by the both of you, and we've got better language now. And so that's why we're.
Well, they're taking it to their attorneys, and they're gonna come up with better language, but for now, we wanna pass ours, and we'll send it on to them and say, here's what we need to do right away. We don't have time to wait.
Hopefully they'll take our language and adopt it.
Yep. So.
Very good.
Okay, somebody care to make that motion? Okay, Trustee Fike,
Motion by Fike,
supported by Trustee White.
White, supported by White. Okay, Trustee White.
Yes.
Yes. Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer.
Yeah.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Thank you.
And is a resolution in order, or a motion in order for Resolution 22-5?
Yes, it's basically the same.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Supervisor.
Okay, supported by Ms. Hugo.
Ms. Hugo, supported. Okay. Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Superintendent Lima, any thoughts on future agenda item for strategic planning or?
Yeah, there'll be a couple of updates. One is going to be this Thursday, the reconvening the meeting with the North End Business Owners Association to work on that specific strategic goal item of what we're doing on this north side. That is this Thursday afternoon,
Yes.
11 o'clock. If any of the board members are interested in attending. And then also we'll have another update on progress from the DPS Fire Department campus plan. We have interviewed the top 3 of the RFQs that we got back for the project manager. And we interviewed all 3 of the top 3 out of the 6 that we received. Very, very good feedback, real good meetings. I think we'll be prepared to present that information and make a recommendation to the board.
Okay. Anybody else have any future agenda items they'd like to see us discuss? Okay.
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes.
Before you guys move forward, can I just suggest that you may want to consider the meeting date?
Yep. May 3rd. Right now, what we did is we thought we were going to have an election date, so we did not schedule the board meeting on our typical Tuesday. We had moved it to
The Wednesday, I believe.
Wednesday, whoops, going the wrong way here, May 4th. I would like to ask that we move it back to the Tuesday, the 3rd. I've got a conflict, and I believe a couple other board members have conflicts on the 3rd, or on the 4th as well. Would that work for everybody to keep it on Tuesday, the 3rd?
I'm agreeable.
Hold on.
Okay.
I think we'll be all right. And the reason we can go back to Tuesday is because there's no election?
Right.
Yeah.
We had to make provision for it because initially Lake Fenton was going to have an item on the agenda, but then they rescinded their resolution, if you recall. And so there you go.
Does it work for you, Mr. Fike? Okay, we have a consensus then that May 3rd will work? Do we need to vote on that at all, or?
I think you do need to vote, because you're amending
Okay.
your annual calendar.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to amend our annual calendar to move our board meeting from May 4th to May 3rd at 7 p.m.
May 4th to May 3rd.
Support by Trustee Fike.
Okay, one moment. Moved by Bennett, supported by Fike. Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan. Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Very good. Okay. Ms. Hugo, anything on planning?
No, our next meeting is May 5th,
Okay.
and I'm requesting that Jeremy provide tacos.
Well, it's Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de
and,
Mayo.
Well, forgive me, when was that next meeting?
Cinco de Mayo.
Yes.
Oh, yes, of course.
Somebody's birthday is on that date, too. But I'm not going to say who.
Anybody we know?
Okay.
Mr. White, anything on ZBA?
No update.
Okay. Mr. Fike?
No.
Mr. Blanche? Dr. Reardon? Treasurer Kilmer? Clerk Robertson?
Nothing to report.
I have nothing. The road commission meeting was uneventful, but we're able to get some things. There's some interesting perspectives coming out of the road commission. One thing they're going to look at is being able to use the allocation funds maybe next year for a few different things that are still being discussed. So being that a lot of our roads are meeting the Paiser rating, where they're in good shape, those funds can't be used on a lot of roads right now that maybe they could be. So they're going to look at expanding the use of those allocation dollars. So we'll see what they come out with. Yes?
What's the status of the Dort Highway extension? When will that be finished?
Actually, we had a press conference out there this past week with regard to construction traffic safety, and just to urge everybody to slow down in work zones, even if it's, they told the statistics of how many people actually are killed in work zones, and believe it or not, it's actually 80% of the people killed or injured severely in work zones are the people driving through them. But they have people that get out of their car and move barrels and then drive into the construction area. On Grand Blanc Road, apparently, I wasn't aware of this, but last year we had somebody that with a huge flatbed trailer that drove into an area where they were actually putting down asphalt at the time. And, the construction workers were all hollering at him to slow down because he's going, 55 miles an hour or whatever. But in terms of the Dort Highway extension, obviously they've been working all winter. They're expecting it to be done by the end of June, I believe, which seems fairly quick, given the amount of work it looks like still to be completed. But the section between Baldwin and Pollock is completed, including the pathway pretty much, which is beautiful. And the retaining walls, what have you, on the section between Pollock and Cook is well underway. They've got retaining walls. It's coming together. Good. So, looking forward to that being finished. Mr. Laddie?
No, sir.
Mr. Lemata?
I got nothing.
Okay. Anything else? I guess we're ready for somebody to make a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn if that's in order.
Okay. Supported by Ms. Hugo. All those in favor say aye.
We are adjourned at 8:23.
See everybody on May 3rd.